Well, if you were to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least, 10 the most, how would you rate your overall feeling of happiness? You have a number? Okay. How about your general health? Same scale, 1 the least, 10 the most. And I'm not talking here about genetic or hereditary kind of illnesses, just general health. 1 the least, 10 best. Got a number? About your general well-being, same thing. And finally, what about your purpose in life? 1, you have no purpose. 10, you feel like you have a really good purpose. Did you know that people who typically have high ratings in these areas of life are generally more generous than people who typically have low ratings in these areas of life? Yeah, there have been studies have been done statistically. People who have a happier, healthier, greater sense of well-being and purpose in life, the higher numbers in those, tend to be more generous. It's a paradox that those who are ungenerous are not happy. They're not as healthy. They don't have a great sense of well-being or purpose in life. So over the course of the next few weeks, leading up to Lent, I'm going to be doing a little mini series of messages. I titled it The Paradox of Generosity. In giving we receive, but in grasping we lose. You see, generosity is a repeated behavior. It's not one single act. It's not something that you do once and done. It requires a recurrent intention and attention. Something that you have to want to do and you have to put your mind to doing it. Because it shapes your life over time. Generosity is that habit of giving without expecting anything in return. Now, I just want to put a little caveat in here for my parishioners. This is not a homily series, a message series on giving more money to the church. It's not about financial resources, although it does involve that. It's really about just being generous and what it can do for you. Starting with people who are generous. I found it interesting as I prepared for this series that the origin of the word generous is the same as the origin of the word nobility. Yeah, nobility like as in kings and queens and dukes and duchesses and lords and ladies, that sort of thing. People who were of noble birth, they were expected to be generous. They were thought to have the means to be generous. In fact, they probably did. They had the wealth, they had the time, they had the wherewithal to be generous, and so it was expected that they would be. I don't think it should come as a surprise that people who were of noble birth were also more likely to be people who held positions of authority in the community, kings and queens, huh? Well, the very people who were listening to Jesus wondered about the same thing. How could he, who was apparently not of noble birth, have such authority? Well, he came from a backwater village of Nazareth. He was the son of a carpenter. Well, we know, and the people to whom he was speaking would soon discover that indeed he was of noble birth. He will indeed practice the ultimate form of generosity. He'll give everything, even his own life. And that act of generosity underscores the power of his authority. It gives him legitimacy. It makes him legitimate. You and I, we find it easy to excuse ourselves from being this kind of generous because we don't see ourselves as being of that kind of noble birth. I'm from Sinking Spring, Pennsylvania. What kind of nobility comes from there? Your sons and daughters of miners from Tamaqua. We don't believe that we have the means to be generous. And of course, cultural history dictates that generosity is somebody else's responsibility. I pay taxes. Let the government be generous. Or I give my dollar in the collection basket. Let the diocese be generous. Let them take care of it. Besides, Father, what do you do all week long? You can take care of this or that. But Jesus' teaching and his way of life offers us a different look at the power of generosity. You see, because he shares his life with us. First and foremost, through the sacrament of baptism, whereby we become sons and daughters of a loving Father. We are his brothers and sisters. We do, as a result of baptism, have a noble birth. We do share his authority. And like him, our generosity must show that we are legitimately his brothers and sisters. Our lives, indeed, have a higher quality, a greater goodness. And there is the expectation that we practice this art of generosity. In fact, well, we do have the means to be generous. A couple of years ago, I played golf with a fella. We were walking the course and talking as we walked along. I had never met him before this round of golf. He was the friend of a friend of mine. And as we talked along, he knew that I was a priest, and I learned that he was a financial advisor. He helped people make money and help people manage their money. That's how he made his. He told me that he and his wife made a decision because of the way that their life was going, their family life, and the difficulties and the challenges that they were facing. They made a decision after hearing a talk on generosity that they would give 10% of their income away off the top before paying household expenses. They would give away 10% of their time. They'd make themselves available in greater ways to their family and to their neighbors. Of course, it required that they would make some changes in their lifestyle, but they recognized that they were probably giving up things that really didn't make their life much better, just things that they wanted. He went on to tell me that even during the years of the Great Recession of 2007 and 2008, they continued to bring in more and more and were able to give away more and more. They never had unpaid expenses, and they discovered over time that they were happier. They felt like their life had greater meaning, and their family benefited in ways that they never thought possible. Generous people look at what they have, and while still taking care of themselves and those they are called to care for, willingly give away a percentage of their financial resources, a percentage of their time. They share their emotional life with others, and they act in a neighborly way to those around them. Generous people are happy and healthy. They don't suffer from depression or addiction to the degree that ungenerous people do. Generosity is authentic, and generous people recognize that it's something that must be believed and practiced as a real part of their lives. And they also recognize that it's only when they are generous that the well-being enhancing powers of generosity kick in. Jesus was generous. He was generous with his whole life. And our baptism demands that you and I do the same. God bless you.